Set? You ready? Let's bring this meeting to order. I'm Brian Stepanek. I'm the Vice President. Carrie's off today. She's out of town. Could we start by roll call, please, Sue?
Alicia Gardner.
Present.
Alyssa Parks.
Present.
Chuck Melkey.
Present.
Jessica LaNave.
Present.
John Sayer.
Present.
Brian Stepanek.
Present.
Carrie Germain.
All 6 accounted for, and Carrie is off. Now, can we please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance? Ben, would you like to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving along, public comment. Is there anybody that would like to make a public comment? I just need, please stand at the podium here and provide your name and address and at least 3 minutes or no longer than 3 minutes to comment. Anybody? Okay. Consent agenda. We have a consent agenda before us. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Support.
Alyssa and Alicia? We've got on this consent agenda also, it'll be Ben's last meeting with us officially, and we really, truly appreciate what he's done for this school system, this community, and individually as board members, I think we all just really have enjoyed having him for the past 5.5 years. And we're sorry to see him go, but we're very happy that he's got the position he's coming into.
Thank you.
Could you do roll call, Sue?
Kirken. Jessica LaNave.
Yes.
Alicia Gardner.
Yes.
Chuck Melkey.
Yes.
Brian Stepanek.
Yes.
John Sayer.
Yes.
And Alyssa Parks.
Yes.
Motion passes. Moving on to number 6, Superintendent Report.
Thank you, Mr. Stepanek, and it has been a really, really busy few weeks. Actually, last week it was kind of a dead week, so our students and staff in the district, took typically the week of the 4th is when our athletes have a dead week. It's also when a lot of our staff take vacations, and it was a great opportunity for people to do that. But then starting and revving up this week has been very busy. And we're in full-fledged mode of getting ready for the start of the school year already. And so plans are being made, positions are being filled, and we're actually able to even further that a little bit tonight. But I want to say that it's been a really impressive few weeks as we've started summer school this week. And we've had 241 students, I think, at Siring in our early elementary school for just that group alone. And there's 3 separate groups. It's a number that's, I think, even eclipsed what we had last year in terms of our summer learning program. And it's just been such a tremendous success. And so I want to thank Mr. Heatherton and the coordinators and the teachers and the staff and all the families that are making that work. We have transportation being provided, bus drivers and food service workers making meals for the kids. It's just really been a great experience. So over the course of the next few weeks, I'm sure there'll be lots of photos shared and opportunities to see what the kids are doing. And of course, like we did last year in the fall, hopefully an opportunity for you to have a really great presentation on the summer learning program. Construction is off and running, and as you can see, it was hard to even get into this building today. So there is just so much going on right now at the middle school and high school. So to give you a little bit of an update, the middle school has had the south parking lot has been completely ripped up because that whole lot is being replaced. Right now, if you go into the middle school, was there yesterday, it would be unrecognizable if you walked into the front main hallway because the new student commons area is completely opened up. The STEM addition is fully completed and just awaiting final inspection. The same thing with the main office. We're waiting for a few additional office furniture pieces. They're well away on working on some of the ceiling grid and glass within the building, but that project is progressing at a very good clip and a good pace. The high school is undergoing tremendous work this summer as well, probably a little bit more even than the middle school because they're putting the HVAC units in and all of the air conditioning units. If you were to walk in the classrooms right now, you're going to see the air vents and all of the ducts that are going to the outside areas. If you were to walk into the new office, which is complete minus a few furniture pieces and final inspection, you would find a very secure entry where we're going to be able to have our counseling and our administrative staff all in the same location, which will create a situation where families, parents, visitors that are coming into the building don't actually have to go into the main building proper. They could actually meet directly with the staff there. We also have the tremendous opportunity to see the gymnasium and the new locker rooms being built. If you just drive by the 400 area, the whole wall is basically out. There's new glass panels being put in there. The locker room, which used to be 2 stories, as many of you probably know, is now fully transformed. It's 1 level. Probably my biggest concern for the start of school will just be the delays in getting that project done. There's a lot of work in that area. So if I were to give you a little bit of a prediction, I would say that probably everything's going to be ready to go. You're going to have punch list items, but that locker room might be the thing that lingers a little bit into the school year, and so there may need to be some adjustments from the high school staff in that area. New bleachers are being installed here over the next couple weeks. They're being delivered in 2 weeks, and then those will be installed and the floors being refinished as well. The new STEM addition at the high school is also pretty much wrapped up. We have furniture being delivered as well, and that is going to be a tremendous facility. So I'm really excited for not just you as board members, but for community members to see the space. It's really beautiful. And then the big question right now is, of course, what you see everywhere when you look out the windows, completely new parking lot in this area, which is being reconstructed. We've run into some bad soil conditions in several locations, which is why the parking lot's been failing for the past 25 years. So I do expect there to be multiple change orders over the course of the next couple weeks because they do have to build it right. I'd like to be able to come back to the district in 20 years and see that the lot is still looking like a new lot. And the way that you have to do that is making sure that the base is done properly. So they are bringing in sand and compacting sand, making sure the drainage is properly done. And so all of that work is commencing. They do feel still that they will have that project done and ready for school to start. You may have some striping that needs to take place on a weekend in the fall or something like that, but should be able to be accessible for the beginning of the school year. So construction's moving ahead and doing well. Mary Crapo, we're working through the permitting process at this time, and so there's a lot of work being done to get the project off the ground. The contractors have mobilized, they're ready to go. We're waiting on a few things from soil erosion and waste and water at the county level. But those things hopefully will get cleared here pretty soon, and then we'll be able to get that started. A little bit of a report, and I know a couple of you have had conversations with me on this as well. There was a student at our high school this year, and she's actually here today, Cora Alexander. And Cora has offered, she was a student that did a lot of work with the ITC program, and so she did a lot of video editing and things like that. And so she's graciously offered to do somewhat of a quasi-documentary and a historical tribute to the Mary Crapo building. And so she's going to be getting in there, taking video, doing some interviews with community members, and I think that's going to be something that she may make public comment about later, so I don't want to steal her thunder too much, but the bottom line is I'm excited for that. I think it's going to be a great way to tribute a very important asset that this community's had for a very long time. There's a lot of other things to talk about, and I'm sure we'll have some further conversations tonight. I will say that this is a difficult and bittersweet situation. I've had the opportunity to serve in this community for the better part of 6 years, and it has been an absolute blast. It's been a joy. The people, the parents, the students, the staff, the board, I couldn't think of a better place to really just learn and grow and lead over the past 6 years. I've learned so much from all of you, from the staff, from the kids. I have been totally blessed to be able to serve in this capacity as your superintendent. And it's a great opportunity for me to be closer to my home, to my family, as I'm accepting a position as the superintendent in Novi Community School District. But I will never forget the great relationships and the things that we've been able to do here. I hope to make regular visits back just to see the completion of a lot of things. I'm only a phone call away, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. And it is with tremendous gratitude that I leave, and hopefully the district is in a better place than when I started. And that's, I think, what every leader wants to be able to say, is that I believe the district is in a better place than when I started. And I'm just really proud of the relationships that have been built, the culture. Obviously, there's a lot of external things that we can talk about, but I'm most thankful for the relationships that have been cultivated and the culture that exists in this school district. And I believe that the momentum for Swartz Creek is just through the roof, and I can't wait to see where you guys are going to be over the next few years. So thank you so much for everything, and certainly I've been honored to serve as your superintendent, and hopefully stay in touch. And that is my report. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate it, Mr. Micah. I'll tell you, we've done, with you at the helm, we've done an incredible amount. I've been on the board for a long, long time, and it's amazing the work that we have got done together as a team. This whole system, the whole school system here at Swartz Creek has been completely changed for the better. And I've never seen this kind of change before. It's just been such a blessing having you here. And like you said, relationships, yes, that has been key with you, and I really appreciate that too.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Anybody else?
I was going to say, do you want our comments now or later? Now's okay. I definitely think they will be very big shoes to fill. We have been blessed to have you in the district. And I will say, as a seated board member, we're essentially supposed to lead you. And I will say it's always a blessing when you have somebody that essentially works for you that ends up leading you. So thank you for everything that you have done to guide and lead us. I think this is although we may, have varied opinions and everything else, we are a cohesive group. And a lot of that is to toot your horn, thanks to your direction and your leadership. So this district, it is a loss for us, but I can only say that they're getting a great person, and you deserve it professionally and personally as well. So although we are sad to see you go, you have also left a legacy here and have a tremendous, amazing team behind you. That although those are big shoes, I think you have also guided and led some people to be able to fill those very well. So although you personally will be missed, I don't think it's going to be a huge operational loss, because you have set the tone for the district, and that is your legacy as you leave. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else comment?
I'll reserve my comments at the end of the meeting.
Okay. Moving on, number 7, informational items. I'm sure you had an opportunity to read the resignation and retirements, and that was approved through the consent agenda. Board discussion items. Mr. Mikey, can I turn that over to you?
Yeah, for sure. So as I talked about at our previous board meeting, you had the opportunity to see our soapbox derby car, and it was kind of on display with the parking lot where it is. It wasn't possible to bring it back today, but I'm very, very proud and excited of the work that the middle school team has done. And Mr. Kaplan, one of our teachers, who've been with us for a couple years now, in an official capacity, has been such a burst of energy for our kids and for the students in that building. And so we had just this really cool idea that he really ran with the kids. And so he's here to talk a little bit about that briefly, and then maybe even recognize some of our students who participated. So.
Okay, thank you again. I'm R.J. Kaplan, and I teach 7th grade science. Just a quick history real quick. This is the soapbox derby, which is not to be confused with the Pinewood Derby, which are those little cars that the Boy Scouts would make. It was in the 1930s that this race had first begun, and then it was around the 50s. They would race down on Cadillac Street, and in the 50s they had the track built, which is, everyone sees it in front of the Flint Southwestern, yes. It's going to be $250,000 to actually get that replaced, and it was just approved to be replaced. But in '95, the races had stopped, all right? And about 30 years later, or 25 years later, it was brought back in 2019, and then we had COVID. So when I came here, and I raced it over at Beecher, I wanted to bring it here for our kids. They took third place. It was pretty amazing that they came in third place. I mean, they were just winning race after race. I mean, they didn't lose any heats until the end. So it's an honor to teach these young people who committed 2.5 months of their weekends, right, in May and June and April to build this vehicle. It shows that they're serious about being involved in school things that interest them. And they're committed to doing STEM work before our wings even completed, and that really shows the excitement that they have. So they're serious about that, and I'm thankful to them for their excitement to want to take on this thing and give up so much of their time. What I wanted to give them today was a couple of certificates. These are awards from Kettering University. For their outstanding achievement in designing, building, and racing, and it's therefore awarded to these future junior automotive engineers. 7 of our students were on this team. They all partook in this, and some of them could not make it because of vacation, and some kids were sick. So first, I'd like to bring up Caden Oski. Caden, come on, get your award here. All right, you're welcome. And you can just stand right over here. And also Malik Spiller. Malik, come on up. I love how they wore their swag from the race day. Come on over here, guys, just for a quick second. So congratulations to you guys on that. Okay. In the fall, that we will have a trophy for the school that I'll be presenting to the school, and then we can display it. You all might get your own individual trophy. I'm not sure yet, all right? Just in closing, I just wanted to say one thing that you won't see, and that is when they built this vehicle, there were so many times where they worked on relationship skills, their self-management, their social awareness with other people. They were hitting 4 out of our 5 standards on SEL, and if you could see the way they worked and the way they worked through their conflicts, right, and their differences with one another, and the teammates that they made, I mean, they just week after week to sit back and realize, like, that's what they'll remember, right? They're not going to remember a whole lot of that race day, but those relationships and how they worked through some fear and some anxieties and walking away when they should have been the racer, right, or taking a chance in being the designer. They were amazing. So I got a thank you note from a young lady, and I'm just going to skip over the part where she talks about me being the best teacher ever. But it highlights what these young people did, and she said, learning about science in your class was fun. I learned a lot of things, but I learned, most importantly, how to recognize my emotions and regulate back down. I also learned how to build a soapbox car, and I'll miss you next year. So really just kind of a testament to what we're trying to do there, right? So congratulations to them, and thank you for the opportunity to just present and share this with you. Okay? Thank you.
Hey, Brian, thank you.
Will the young men like to say anything?
Do you guys want to say anything?
I mean, you know, with their
They had a
teacher
lot
there?
to say last time.
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything?
Please.
I would like to say that the community in the working area was like very kind, and it was easy to work with the people that were in my group. And yeah.
Good, thank you.
Kate, anything?
It was really fun, and everybody else, like all the other teams, were all friendly and nice.
Good.
All of it. It was all really fun. I can't really tell you what part was the funnest.
Can you say what the number one thing you learned was?
To teamwork,
That's
better, yeah.
Did you select a driver, one driver, or how did you come down? How did that work out?
Want me to share that?
Arm wrestle over it?
So we had a driver, and this would be Caden Oski, and he yielded that position to another student when I think he really would have liked to have not done that. And he learned about his own self-awareness and how to advocate for himself in that moment, and how to take agency with that. And it didn't happen, but I don't think he'll yield that next time, right? Mason we came in third place, okay? We did great, but I think, he might not give that up next time. So, so picking the driver was interesting. So.
It was like third place, and we were the only school that had placed that high, weren't we?
That-
Weren't
yeah.
the other ones, I think the kids were telling
That's
me they were all
correct.
like private corporations that
Yeah.
were doing this.
They came from out of state,
Let's leave
whoever.
a bigger feather in our cap.
It looks like, 10 entries? Is that what I saw?
10 or 12, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. So.
Great job, good job. Keep up the work, we appreciate it.
Thank you very
How
much.
many times did you have to make the run then? Or was it just a one-time run?
No,
or several?
how many heats? 6 heats, two runs for every heat, so 12 runs, 12 runs total, I think. Yeah, a minimum of 12. So
And did you have cheerleaders also?
it was no.
Mom and
No
dad?
cheerleaders. Moms and dads, right? Right, and then the teammates that they made, the other students they made, friends with, really cheered them on. It was really beautiful to see at the top
Yeah,
of
it
the
is.
hill. So, thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you, fellas, for all that you did. Make Swartz Creek proud. We appreciate it. Thank you again. Any other comments? Mr. Micah, on the ESSER budget application update?
Sure. So as you know, this past year, we received some federal dollars for ESSER. And back in earlier this year, we approved an initial application. We had a lot of community input, a lot of staff input into that. And then, of course, we had to go and actually apply for the funds. So there's no change in the total amount because obviously those dollars were established in terms of what we were getting from those ESSER funds. But how what the Michigan Department of Education would basically allow in terms of the application was there. And so what we did is we had to kind of match the parameters of what was allowable by the grant. And so these amounts are the actual amounts now that we know the application was live and what could be approved. And so the total dollar amount doesn't change. This just is a revised list and where those things are coming. There are some things that, and I'll give an example, that we were advised by the consultants at the Department of Education not to include. So in the original list, for example, we had a school nurse, right? And their perspective was you really shouldn't include that. It would be considered allowable, but they recommended not including it because of the fact that it would create a potential legacy cost, right? So if you add that into your ESSER funds, and then in future years you wanted to maintain it, you would have to come up with that in your budget. So in talking with the board, obviously last couple board meetings ago, and you were looking at the budget, we did allocate funds in the budget for a school nurse. So what may have been originally in the list changed a little bit based on what were recommended by the Michigan Department of Ed. So That's there. It'll be there for your consideration tonight. The total dollar amount doesn't change. Again, these are not general fund dollars. This just matches the application and what we were advised to put into the grant.
Thank you, Ben. Anybody have any questions, concerns? Seeing none, we'll move to the next item.
All right. So obviously this is, it's a hard meeting for me. It's bittersweet, but it's also an exciting time because I think it's an opportunity for, the district to think about what does the transition look like and, who, fills this role. And so for the sake of the community and the public, as well as for you as a board, I wanted to kind of go through what districts typically do when there's a superintendent that's outgoing, and how do they typically, execute a plan and a process. And then, of course, allow you to discuss and decide, how you want to move forward. So first and foremost, the state of Michigan and the revised school code requires that every public school district in Michigan have a superintendent. It is actually legislatively driven. So you have to name a superintendent to be in place. Now, that doesn't mean that it has to be a permanent superintendent. It doesn't mean that, you have to, have a contract signed and all of those types of things. But at minimum, you need to have an interim superintendent in place. And so I will be coming back for a few meetings, and I still have some things that I'm going to be tying up. But I've been working hard the last few weeks to try and help close out some of my projects here in Swartz Creek. And so next week, I plan to be in Novi for the most of the time. So that would be when my resignation would take effect, would be starting on Monday. And so starting on Monday, you would need to have somebody at this meeting that you at least appoint at minimum as the interim to be in charge of the district operation starting on Monday. From there, you really have three potential choices of where and what districts typically do. So in some cases, you have option one, and option one would be to look at doing a global search, which would be looking for a search consultant firm. They range in price. What you would do is you would actually interview, different firms that would provide this service. There's about 6 of them that are quite prominent. And they would come in. It's going to cost between $25,000 and $30,000. Unless you did a national search, then that could go up to $50,000. Having participated in these searches, I know a little bit about them. It's going to take a while. It's a process. It takes probably, I'm going to say, 2 months on the short side, more realistically 3+ months to be able to do a full search with a consultant. Districts the size of Swartz Creek, for the superintendency, you don't typically see, just we're just going to post it on the website. That's not really a thing for districts our size. I mean, certainly if you were in the UP and you serviced 25 children, in a small district, you may have a person, that you're thinking of in that case. But if you're going to go with option one, you really need to kind of do the homework and interview firms and go through that process. So that is an option. I think some advantages of doing a search, of course, is especially if you're thinking, we'd like to see, a change of direction, or there may be a situation where you're looking at, want to see what's out there. There's a group that kind of handles that. And so these firms handle the process from start to finish, and then you kind of move forward with that. Maybe a downside in doing a full-blown search is just the time in transition. It takes some time to be able to execute this. And so, you would be starting school without a permanent replacement in place. And I think that there could be a domino effect, of course, with different positions that would need to be filled and so on and so forth. Option number 2 would be something that a large number of school districts do, and that is a direct appointment. There is no statutory requirement on any process that the board must undergo. And so I would actually say probably the majority lately of school districts where there's a succession plan, when they accept the superintendent's resignation, they move right into an appointment process. You're going to see that in Fenton. You're going to see that in Flushing. Grand Blanc, Davison, Kearsley, Carmen, more recently, in the last year and a half. All of those districts have turned over, and all of those districts have just done a direct appointment, including the GISD, the same board meeting that they accepted the superintendent's resignation. That particular process is probably, I would say, a large majority of districts do that when they're not wanting to see a large change in direction and want to see services continue. So the advantage of that, of course, is you don't miss a beat. You've got somebody in place right away if you have somebody that you're thinking is capable. And then you, can kind of move forward and you have the least amount of disruption in your transition as possible. Of course, the downside of that is you're not giving any kind of process for the community to hear or for you as a board to, ask questions of a candidate. And so I think that there are some cons with that process, but that is an option. I would say there's a third option, which is a little atypical, and there probably are some different iterations of this, but a third process would be where there may be somebody that you feel has an opportunity or be a good fit, and you could actually conduct an interview with that individual for the purpose of entertaining them as the next superintendent of schools. So there are some pros and cons to that. I think, a little bit of a con is you're still a little bit behind the eight ball, and, because you're going to have some time that goes by where you're not going to have the replacement in place as opposed to option two. But an advantage is you have a lot of flexibility and some options available to you. So you would have the ability then to set a date, and my recommendation, if you went with option three, and you had somebody that you were interested in interviewing for the position of superintendent, my suggestion would be that July 27th, which is a time where I believe most of you are in town, you would set essentially a board meeting, and the purpose of that board meeting would be to interview the superintendent. And I have a candidate for superintendent, and I have some suggestions if that's the direction you would want to go, and I can walk you through that tonight. But the advantage of that is you allow yourself an opportunity to see if a succession plan makes sense for you as a board. And the sole decision on the next superintendent rests with the 7 board members. You are the elected officials to make that decision. And so you would have the opportunity then ask questions, allow the candidate to be interviewed in public. It would be streamed. The whole community would have the opportunity to see that and weigh in. And I think that's a large advantage as well. So those are the typical ways that school districts kind of move forward in a transition. And so we set aside time in the agenda. I'm here to be able to help facilitate questions. If you have questions about what that looks like, I can help you walk through what those next steps might be. But it's your time to kind of discuss how you would like to proceed for the next step in the transition of filling my role.
Any comments, questions?
On the 3 options, this is the 3 options that we have.
These are the most commonly held options that you would, have in front of you. I mean, and I can certainly speak to any other ideas that you might have.
I don't have any. I just didn't know if that's the 3 standard options that most boards.
Yeah, most boards, and again, I'm going to be very simplistic and basic here, but the basics are typically boards either say, for whatever reason, we don't have internal capacity, we don't have a succession plan, or we want to go a different direction, or we want to see what's out there. They go with a search. Option 2 would be to say, we have a succession plan, we're happy with where the district's going, we want to just direct appoint. Option 3 is a little bit of a blend where you have a process, and the advantage I think that it gives you is that if you go with that particular option, you still have opportunities to go for a search if you're not pleased at, how the interview goes or whatever. But I think that's why I threw that out to you, because some districts have done that. I've seen that. It's not as common, but it gives you kind of a blend of the two versus going all in on one or the other.
Okay, and just a couple more questions on the law. What's the time set for an interim superintendent? Does the state say that you have to permanently appoint a superintendent, or is there an interim is there a time limit on the interim, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? I'm just wondering why we're rushing. We got to take a breath here because this just came upon us.
Sure.
With you.
Yep. Yeah, so there's
And-
not a statutorily dictated timeframe. What I would say, though, from a practical lens, is that due to the nature of timing, and I would probably have a different answer for you if this was February.
Okay.
So, the most important part of the school year is the start of the school year. And so as I think about, the options that you have to consider, I think you guys need to make that decision. But to answer your question directly, if you were to extend an interim period for whatever period of time you decided you want to do, the longer that period goes, the more challenging it might be on staff. There's positions that need to be hired. There's things that need to be done, to get the school year started. So that would be maybe a downside of making that go too long, just from the standpoint of where we sit today on July 13th. But with that being said, there's no statutory requirement other than the fact that you have to name someone as the acting chief administrator for the district.
Okay.
Are there contractual limitations on that at all as far as duration? Is there an actual contract that we submit for the interim even?
So that is going to be typically, that's a great question. So typically what would happen is you would authorize a subcommittee of the board to enter into contract negotiations with either your superintendent choice, right, or your interim superintendent choice. And that subcommittee of the board would work with the individual and be able to then say, okay, here's our, income parameters, here's what we're thinking. And then they have a quasi negotiations, if you will. And that would be the case in an interim or in a permanent role. And then the board would actually approve either an interim or a permanent contract. But let's just say in, option 2, okay? Which, again, I'm not suggesting anything, but if you went with option 2, you could select a superintendent even tonight, but then you would need to, you wouldn't be approving a contract. You would be entering into negotiations, okay? In the event that you decided to go with option 3, even if you decided to move forward with a candidate at the next, interview, you would still not be approving a contract. That would have to be done as a subcommittee of the board, and then the board as a whole would have to approve that. Yep.
Anybody else? Any other, Jessica?
Yeah, I guess. Well, we have to come to some type of decision about what we do. I think option 3 makes the best sense. And shall we talk about, it's been obvious we have a succession plan. I'm going to wrap up and say a couple of comments and then a suggestion, I guess, is that, as we've said, you've done a very great job at putting plans together and building teams. We've talked about it for a while, about if and when you left, what that would look like. I was recently telling my husband that I did not realize the difference between a deputy superintendent and an assistant superintendent. And that a deputy superintendent actually is able to fill the capacity and all the roles of a superintendent if they are unable to, versus an assistant superintendent not being able to do that. And you have put that in place. And I would think that it would make sense for us to do option 3, and in the interim, appoint Rod, if he is willing, and Heatherton. And then, as you said, in the next couple of weeks, it gives us some time to process everything and see, and think about what we want to know. I'd kind of like knowing you'll have to answer this tonight, Rod. If we do this, are you planning on changing the direction completely? I would think not, but, it seems to make sense to me that we do that. There is a sense of continuing the movement and the momentum that we have. And truly, at this moment, I can't think of anybody more qualified and positioned to be able to do that without detriment to our students and our district. And so, I would like some time because I have questions and I haven't thought of any yet, so, other than that one. So I would like to be able to come back and do that, but option 3 makes the most sense to me.
I would agree. I'd also be on board with option 2 if others were, but I always like a process. At the same time, I've been part of, on the outskirts, but been privy to and part of other local government processes where they had an interim for a really long time, and it actually was very detrimental, even when they eventually approved them. So I would just, I feel like it's a balance, having some process, not just jumping to a decision. However, and also I do think the community will be interested in anyone who fills these shoes, what they're thinking about and what Rod is thinking about and kind of his vision for the district. And like you said, Jessica, continuation and any adjustments. So I think that we have our due diligence to the community for that. But there is a succession plan in place, so I don't know why we would jump to spending that much money out of the gate when we have, I think, a very strong candidate to consider internally. We're almost done with strategic planning. We had a lot of great conversation there about continuation as well as some new innovative ideas. Mr. Heatherton was part of that. I just don't think it makes sense time-wise and money-wise to jump to an outside search firm, and I think it sends the wrong message to our staff as a first step. So that's my take.
I concur. I think the succession plan that we have that is in place and has been well supported for several years speaks to what I said before about your own legacy, Ben, but it's the tone and the culture that has been developed within the district. Mr. Heatherton has been front and center, and if anything, your right hand. Sometimes you're right, you're left, and doing it all. For many different efforts. I will also say, in full transparency, we have gotten, I have received direct recommendations from staff, and that speaks volumes, that they want their voice heard as well, that the culture is what we want kept. We put funding that we just, discussed earlier that we'll be approving here soon into that staff retention, and that speaks to our culture. We have been able to have full staff even through the pandemic and post because the district is a place that people want to come. That speaks to the leadership, I think, if nothing more. I think we have great qualified candidate sitting right here. I do say that I think, there is a need for transparency to the public. So, having a full vision and just ensuring and making sure that we do have, a good pulse and a, understanding of that direction. I fully support both option 2 and option 3. I agree. Option 1 for timing and funding, although that doesn't sound like it's a significant amount of money, it just seems like a waste of time, if nothing more. But I will also say, in timing for the school district and the start of school, in addition, I think there's something to be said for the fact that we are going into an election timeframe as well. So I think it's imperative that we have good leadership in place when we have several seats that may be up and changing as well. So I would say that I think, having clear vision and direction with, maintaining that legacy and trajectory that we've already put in place, I think is paramount. So I fully concur with either option 2 or 3.
Anybody else?
I have no problem with option 3. I think option 2 cuts the public out, and I know that I haven't received any letters, or maybe I haven't checked my email in the last couple of days, but as far as, and the word you guys use is transparency, I'm big on that, is that I think that it's good that we get staff input. And I don't want to spend any money, and Rod's been on board here for, I don't know, 17, 18 years, I think. So he has a good handle on things, but I'm just big with, like Alyssa said, going through a process, coming from military, paramilitary, police, and so are you, Brian, that, we just don't, you make half the staff happy, you make half the staff unhappy. That's always going to happen. But I'm more concerned also with our public leaders and their input, because we actually work for the public. We don't work for the district. I mean, we work for the district in helping everybody, but our main job is the taxpayers, and the public are our bosses. And I would like to get their input, so I just don't want to rush it too much. And so I'm kind of like, I'm okay with everybody's, the third thing, you make an interim appointment. That's why I asked about how long, and I can see the detriment in having somebody too long if you extend the interim period. But I also want to give the public a chance to be able to give us input as board members to, get their feeling on it, because, we're getting it from one part and maybe two parts, but I'd like to get the whole puzzle before we make such an important decision. And once again, I think everybody said it here, we want to know the vision of Rod and where he's going, which I'm sure it's going to be 99%, down the line where we're hitting now. But I think it'd be fair to the public. And I don't even know if 2 weeks, that's why I said 2 weeks seems kind of quick. The parking lot torn up, how's people going to get here? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to do anything. We got to have it so it's all done right. It's a huge decision for this board. Of course, we could always make a contract a year or two if he doesn't do a good job. Out you go. But at the end of the day, I think we spend a little extra time before we rush into anything. So I'm pretty much in agreement with everybody. I'm just worried about the 1 week or 2 week time limit. We're already, what's today, the 13th? Today's the 13th, so.
Well, the only thing I would
That's all
say.
I'm at. So, yeah, but that's it. Thank you.
The only thing I would add, I think, to that is, in 2 weeks, if we set that up to here, that gives Mr. Heatherton an opportunity to prepare. It gives the public an opportunity to respond. It doesn't mean that we have to approve him in 2 weeks.
No.
That is the truth. So I think there is a little bit of urgency.
Fair enough. That makes sense.
Yep, as we've said, that, getting somebody in place, regardless, I think we need to appoint an interim. But I think having a more definitive decision going into the start of the school year, and really, they start school towards the end of August, but the work's getting done before that, so.
And we can make a decision. I don't know if we have to make a decision that night, but give us a week.
We can, it would be up to the seven of us. We can vote and decide, or we can opt to not.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this all has to be done in public, but if we go into contract negotiations with the subcommittee, then we can go into closed session to talk about money and that part of negotiations, if I'm not mistaken, Ben?
So, two things. You are right on point, but what I would say is, when you have a subcommittee of the board where there's 3 people, you don't have a quorum, and so that can be done in private. Okay? But
You don't want to discuss your negotiations in public and how you're going to maneuver to save the district money or make the district money or whatever. I'm worried about those types of
But one caveat that I would say, and this is an important thing just for the Open Meetings Act from a legal perspective, you can't, as a governing body, go into closed sessions to negotiate the superintendent's contract because the superintendent is not in a collective bargaining agreement.
Right.
So you could have a subcommittee of the board, meet, and then, of course, whatever document would be agreed to in that subcommittee of 3 people, you would have to publicly approve as a board, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the public has to see what we're paying.
Correct.
In terms of employment and all that, right? Okay. Thank you. I'm good.
Jack?
I'll be honest. I'm conflicted because I do agree with everyone else up here that tonight we should absolutely make Rod interim superintendent. I think we're all spot on there. My biggest reservation is not knowing what else is out there, in a sense. And this isn't a knock on you, Rod. you know I'm a processes guy. I like the process. And I do think it would be wise of us just to at least look. Now, granted, it would take time, and I would give Rod time to kind of show us his chops starting off the school year. And that could go into our decision at the time whether or not we're going to accept him as our actual, not interim superintendent, but regular superintendent. I have a mild reservation on only looking squarely at one person, and it's not just Rod, but it would be anybody, just one person rather than taking a wider lens and taking a look at multiple people just in case there is someone out there who has a vision that we all really like, and that's just my hang up.
I can agree with that. And I will say, that's always a concern, I think, whenever you appoint somebody. I would encourage anybody, if they haven't already done so. So superintendent searches and interviews and all of the such are public record. You can Google them and watch some footage. There may be somebody somewhere out there in some state we haven't seen who may, come forward. That does, again, take time. I would speak again back to the culture and the vision that we have set. And then I'll just be completely frank and honest. I've watched over the years, year maybe, as Mr. Micah has evaluated his professional career, and I'm actually quite surprised we haven't lost him before this, because I'm just going to be frank and honest. There's not a whole lot of great qualified people out there to this caliber, and I would also support that Mr. Heatherton's caliber is above a lot of what I've seen, even in competition with others out there. So I encourage you to look at those two. That's, again, something that we can do in the time frame, but I think, did you comment yet, Brian? Because if not, I would move already, but go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
I'm patient. I guess I'm the last one to speak. We've known Rod for a long time. He's been a great fit. He's done a great job. We know who he is. I've been through, served under 4 different superintendents, and I've been through the consultant firm searches, super searches, and every time certainly, I don't want to call it luck. We were blessed when we got Ben. We were blessed when we got some of the other superintendents, but there's a lot of time and money, and it's still a gamble. You got 25 people. We know who Rod is. And he's done a great job. I'm thinking, in my tenure on the board, we've never had, that I'm aware of, a superintendent create a succession plan like we do now. And he's created that, and Rod is that target, the deputy superintendent. He's done a great job. Why wouldn't we? I don't want to waste, I've been through these searches, and it's not a waste of time. It's just, it does take time, it does take money. But here's the thing, Rod, we've got 2 very critical things coming up quickly, and that's the bond, that's the construction. Rod's been a part of this. He's been with Ben. They've worked together. They know all the little issues, the details that need to be closed out, and there's a lot of them. I have no idea. Even though I sat on the bond committee, I do not know what Ben knows, and I'm sure Rod knows a lot more than I do. But all of these things need to be closed out. Is it in 3 years, which is coming up? And it's a lot of money. The parking lot, all of these things. Rod's been an intimate part of that, along with Ben, in understanding all of that. Another big thing is the school year starts. In just a couple weeks, we have a school year starting. I think it's extremely important that we have at least an interim superintendent in position, and I think Rod's the perfect person. I mean, when I first heard you call us and tell us that you had this other opportunity, I immediately thought, well, good, we got the person to step in and take over, and we're not going to lose any momentum. It's going to be a smooth transition. So I'm looking forward to that. Rod's going to do a great job. I would love to appoint him as interim superintendent this evening, and we're going to need a motion.
So I don't know, and you all need to stop me if I'm overstepping here, but I'm hearing a variety of different perspectives. Let me give you what I think could be a process that might be satisfactory for most all, if hopefully all of you. I heard that there was some support for option 1, 2, and 3 from all 7 of you. It seemed like most people were comfortable with option 3, so let me give you a little more details about if you chose to go in that direction. Most likely what I would suggest that you do would be that you would establish a board meeting. My suggestion would be the 27th of July, because I believe most people are in town. The purpose of that board meeting, it would be a special meeting. You would have Mr. Heatherton come in. He would sit out there at a table. We would have a camera facing him as well as the board, and the community and everyone in the community that would like to come here or watch the stream would be able to see that interview. I think at that interview, I think before then, I would recommend that each board member would submit to Mrs. Germain, and I've talked to her about this, that if this is the direction that the board decides to go, that you would submit up to 3 questions per board member, because you don't want to have a 3-hour interview. Nobody wants that. But I think if you were to have around 20 to 24 questions is kind of that sweet spot. So if you were to have 2 or 3 questions per board member that you would submit to Carrie, I think the first question is a very proverbial one that everybody knows, tell us about why you want to be the superintendent, so on and so forth. I think the second question should be, what is your vision for Swartz Creek Community Schools, right? And then the community can hear those 2. And then the rest of the questions, those 2 to 3 questions, you as board members would submit to Carrie. Carrie would curate that list, and it would be private and confidential. Obviously, you don't want those questions out. And then you could execute that interview. In the meantime, from now until the 27th, we could help create somewhat of a, an input survey, if you would, where the community would have the opportunity to provide input on their perspective, on what they're looking for. If they have any recommendations, they could do that. It also gives then an opportunity, if you chose to do this, people could provide feedback through a QR code at the actual interview if you're interested in getting some of that feedback. There's a lot of ways I've seen this done. But the bottom line is, at that meeting, then you could make a decision on what you would want to do, whether it be moving forward or at that point going out and doing a search. If you chose to say, we still want to go and do a search at that point, or to say we want to take a little bit more time and have another meeting to make a final decision. And there's a lot of different options you would have at that time. But that's a process that could play out in option 3, which gives you an opportunity to at least hear whether or not you feel Mr. Heatherton's qualified or not, and then you were able to make that decision. So I think it does give you some flexibility to accommodate all of what you're talking about, and then you guys can get input as well if that's what you're looking for. So something along those lines could be accommodated. But at minimum, tonight, you do need to have an appointment for an interim, because you're going to need somebody in place come Monday. So
with that said,
I would suggest that.
I'll make a motion that we, I'm sorry, go ahead, Brian.
no, I was just saying,
No,
that's what we need to do.
Yeah, I think it needs to be 2 separate motions, number 1. Number 2 is that, just to speed things up, because I have a couple questions about how we do number 3, submitting questions. Questions should not be given to candidates. I don't know if that was your intent.
No, I agree with that.
2 is that I think that the public should have an opportunity, not to question him so much, but
to filter several questions into that system. Of course, Carrie's going to have to screen them. I mean, what color your underwear? I mean, don't bother us, you know what I mean? But on the other hand, they may have some questions that we may not think of. We don't walk on water. And I think I would like still the input from the public somewhat. You know what I mean, to say, hey, give us some guidance. We work for them, as I said. And so I'm kind of in agreement with what I'm saying, and I'll make a motion if that's okay, Brian.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
So what is your motion then?
Motion is that we appoint Rod interim superintendent effective July 18th, 2022.
Does it have to be the 15th, because that's your resignation day?
Oh, I thought it was the 18th. I apologize.
Oh, it says we just approved the 15th.
My letter should say the 18th.
I apologize. I might have got the dates wrong.
That's right. I will just make,
Okay.
that's okay. So I will make it public record that we are going to amend the resignation effective July 18th for Mr. Benjamin Meinke. And then,
I would second that motion.
It's just an amendment where I think we're
Yep.
okay, so everybody's in agreement. Is that okay with you, Ben?
yep, that's a correction.
Right.
And then your motion.
Okay, so let me repeat it. So Sue, do you have it?
I believe so. Make a motion that Rod is interim superintendent effective July 18th.
18th, yeah. That Deputy Superintendent Rod Hetherington is deputy appointed by the Swartz Creek Board as Deputy Superintendent effective.
No.
Interim.
Interim, yeah, I'm sorry, interim superintendent from the deputy superintendent's position effective July 18th, 2022. That's my motion.
And I will second that motion.
Okay. Chuck, Jack? Any other comment? Sue, could you do roll call?
Sure can. Brian Sapanic,
Yes.
Chuck Melkey,
Yes.
John Sayer,
Yes.
Jessica LaNave,
Yes.
Alyssa Parks,
Yes.
Alicia Gardner, sorry.
Yes.
Motion approved. Congratulations, Rod.
We stand and shake his hand too.
He's not that type of person. He's fine with the position, with the interim position. So now we got to talk about the second motion.
Right. And the second motion is about the 27th and the questions and
Yes, so,
You don't have to include all of those details in the motion.
okay.
But
Yeah,
I
because
think-
I'm thinking, I do things off the top of my head, but I just want to make sure. Yeah.
I think in the motion, you would, make a motion to schedule a special board meeting on the 27th for the purpose of interviewing Rod Hetherington. And then all of those logistical things on, getting community input, putting all of those things together, we can still discuss even tonight, and I can make those things happen. But just so you're aware, I think the motion simply needs to be about setting that special board meeting for that purpose. And then,
That's the only purpose that we're using it for.
yeah.
Let me ask you one quick question, not to muddy up the waters, but this could happen. What happens if the high school principal or the middle school principal says, well, I want to be the deputy superintendent. I have, X amount of experience in 32 years, and they submit a letter to us as the board.
I think that's something that you could certainly consider. So, if they did that, you would have that
Discuss it on July
information. You could
27th?
discuss that on the 27th.
Okay, I just want to make sure because somebody could hear it through the grapevine. And one of listen, at the police department, if the chief said, hey, I'm retiring September 1st, 2022, and, Lieutenant Smith is going to be the interim chief, then you might have 4 people within the police department, right, Brian?
Yep.
Put in for chief's job, and then you may have 4 or 5 candidates come in from outside without even doing a search yet. We haven't even officially did a search. And by transparency and doing things by Hoyle, usually we would say, okay, the board makes it, we're either doing it internal or external, we're going out for a search. So I just want to make sure that doesn't happen to us, and we can discuss that on the 27th if we make a generalized motion. Okay, so make sure within the law. All right, great.
I would say, though, that, in all honesty, if somebody wanted to come forward, I would hope that they already would have made that known.
Right.
The staff were informed, 2 weeks ago? Okay. So I feel more confident that our appointment is solid, definitely.
Good. No, I just
Yeah,
looked
but
at.
I will officially make that motion.
Okay.
that,
She's got to say
she's
something.
supporting a blank
making a motion.
motion. I love it. Thanks for your support.
Just relax.
So,
Need some more.
motion is to set a special meeting of the Swartz Street Community School Board for the intention of interviewing Mr. Rodney Heatherton, interim superintendent, on Wednesday, July 27th, 6 PM.
And we
I said
have
for the
a
purpose of
second.
it. I thought I said for the purpose
Go
of
ahead.
interviewing.
I think you did.
Oh, for the purpose of, I guess, interviewing for the superintendent position.
Yes.
Yeah, for the purpose of interviewing for the superintendent position of Swartz Street Community School Board.
Does everybody understand the motion?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Jessica seconded.
Yes, support. Second.
And comments or questions I will add as well, I think in timing wise, it's also good looking at August because we have two more meetings of our own, but prior to that, we have a board workshop and that would put somebody potentially in place officially at that time as well. So we've got a lot of reasons that that timing looks good.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
So as part of my 9 to 5 job, I do executive recruiting. So I've been part of some of these searches, not at the school level, but in other levels. And the two things you look for, the main two things, are fit with culture and experience with the things that the organization is working on. And so I agree absolutely with this approach. However, I don't see this I see it as an interview, but it's more of affirming some of the assumptions that we're making potentially, and also getting some additional thoughts from Rod. But to me, it's more of like, we have a candidate, we have a succession plan, we have someone who's been involved with all of the things, who knows the culture. Even if you went out and found even a really, another really good candidate, they're not going to know our culture, they're not going to have the same experience, et cetera. So I guess I just want to say that this isn't what I see as a traditional interview and vetting of a candidate. Yes, it is to a point, but I think it's more kind of affirming some of our assumptions or not affirming some of our assumptions to then be comfortable moving forward. Versus a straight out, we don't know this person, we're asking them everything and really kind of drilling them. So, I don't know, I just wanted to share those reflections that.
I think you're right, Alyssa. We're not here to grill Rod. You know how he works.
Yes, we are.
But we are here to show the public,
I agree.
once again, who we work for, I keep repeating that we did due diligence, just not appointing someone, but someone that has the philosophy, wants to carry on with where this board's heading. And, with the philosophy that Ben set up. And there is a lot of things going on, and I agree with you. You can't switch the rower in the middle of the race. With no intent to do that, but at the end of the day, I think that it's such an important decision for our district, and we've got so much hands into the pot, and they've got hands into our pot, and we've got their children. And it's just something that we have to be very careful, like I said, transparent. Everybody needs to have an opportunity. And if nothing else, the majority always rules. So at the end of the day, we make our decision, we stand by it. But I don't like, let's hurry up and appoint somebody, and it's done in the secret of the night. Nobody really got to hear or see anything. And I think that this covers us, and I think that you're right. It may just assure what we already think, but we just want to put one toe in the water, just a little bit, and then we'll jump into the water just to make sure everything's good for our district, because our children are so important to us. And we have to do it with all the crap going on. So that's it. I think we're good. So we're on the same page.
Yeah.
I went around the bush this time.
I agree completely. I think it's important, and I think for Rod, I mean, it's an important moment for the district to hear more from him, and this is an opportunity to do that. So I think it's actually good all the way around. Or it may not be fun, Rod, but for Rod included.
May I ask you one thing? Yes. And that is, I think because we're going to include, and I like the idea of doing the survey from the community, I think it's important for the community to know before they start maybe making comments, and hopefully the majority of the community already knows this, but you made a comment about how Ben has set a lot of this up, which is not false. Yet, I really don't think that Ben would have been as successful in our district as he has been without having the support of Rod. So when we talk about what the vision and the direction that we're going in, that I think it's important on the front end for people to recognize that that didn't just come from Ben, and are we trusting whether or not Rod's gonna continue along with that. Rod actually has been a great part of that foundation prior to Ben coming. So when we're talking about and taking comments in, that I think it's important for the public to be aware of that.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. It's, yeah. Mr. Heatherton, first of all, is his own professional and has set a tremendous amount of fantastic programs in place into the district. And I think I alluded to that before as, you know, the right hand, the left hander. Sometimes you were just ahead and he got to take the credit for it. But thank you for saying that, because Mr. Heatherton has paved his way and has been here long before Ben even came on board. I would say just the guidance into the specific role as superintendent, but the other wealth of experience, expertise, relationship building, and leadership that he brings forward is why we all just appointed you as interim. And then hopefully, you know, we'll come out in that transparency at our next meeting. So,
I think that's.
thank you.
We have to vote on that still, by the way.
Yeah, so, Mr. Sapanic, if it's okay, if you vote on that motion, would it be okay if I then take some notes and clarify some logistics on the back end?
Can we do the vote now?
Yeah, that would be great.
Everybody understand the motion? Sue, would you do roll call, please?
Jessica Lenave,
Yes.
Alyssa Parks,
Yes.
Brian Sapanic,
Yes.
Alicia Gardner,
Yes.
John Sayer,
Yes.
Chuck Melkey.
Yes.
6 yes.
Motion passes.
That's July 27th.
Okay, so moving forward, we're going to make sure we post the meeting for July 27th at 6 PM as the motion called for. What I would suggest then is we will work on building, I'm going to be sending tomorrow, I'll be sending an email to the community through our school messaging system, which basically is going to officially announce, you know, my moving on and all of those things. But I'll also update the community on what just happened tonight. And in there, we can include a stakeholder input survey. And basically, this is my thought. You can tell me if you have something else. What I heard tonight from Mr. Melkey was that we'd like to potentially hear interview questions or questions that the board might be interested in asking. I would also provide a little bit of background on the fact that Mr. Heatherton will be interviewed, and if there's public comment to that effect, you know, that could be included. And then possibly some attributes or hopes that the community is looking for in the next leader could be included as well. So I don't want to make it a 20-question survey because they don't have a very high response rate, but I think if you had something like that, then you would have some data that I could make sure, you know, you could have that, you know, the week prior, you know, we could give them a week to fill it out. And then, you know, by Monday of that week, you'd have that data to be able to have going into that meeting. So are you comfortable with me sending that as a survey, a stakeholder input survey?
Yes.
Okay.
I only have one addition to that. Ben,
Sure.
Is that you, when you send that out to the public, that, and I know they know this already, but reinforce that they always have the opportunity to do what?
Come and speak to the board?
That, or better yet, email us.
Email, yep.
Yeah, because I think that emailing, in a census of, you take the 3 most popular questions or something and you hand them out, which is fine. And like I said, we don't need some crackpot asking some, you know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
always going to be somebody. Yeah, well, I had that happen to me when I was interviewed as a trustee here. people were asking off-the-wall questions, and you could tell they had a bias. And if somebody has a bias against Rod, that's not fair to Rod to have some crackpot. Well, you know, we heard you arrested little Timmy 10 years ago, and you know, whatever. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear that stuff. That's not professional. It's not good for the purpose of what we're doing, and that they have the option of emailing us.
Yep.
And I think, and they already know that, but I think that needs to be reinforced. So they can reach out to us if they don't feel comfortable sending something to you and saying, hey, Alicia, hey, Brian, you know, they may have a personal relationship and we can, you know.
So would it be would you be comfortable then if because the nice thing is you can send an email to the board at SWCRK and
Yep.
all of you get
All of
the
us can
same
get it.
email.
Or they can send it
So-
individually. It's up to them.
Yeah, so I could make the recommendation then that we'll put that board email in there so that
Yes.
they know they have a direct line of access that you guys can get that in.
You see where we're going with this? We're covering all of our bases.
Sure.
We're doing everything transparent. Everything's good, and I think it protects the public, the district, and the board.
Sure.
All three of them.
Yeah, can you actually put that in the posting itself? Only because, I mean, most of the email communication will be to parents essentially, because you've got that, but you don't have the
Yes,
whole
the community.
community.
Yeah, for the
Okay.
board meeting posting, we can actually include a little blurb that
Yep.
talks about,
And one more.
If you have comment or question beforehand and,
Right.
and who to
One more
contact.
monkey in a wrench, and I'm looking at Travis when I say this. Yeah, I see you woke up back there. Wake up, Travis. Stand at attention, please, sir. Do we do it here because of the parking lot? Or do we do it at the PAC center where they can park in the back and the side and be able to have access? I don't know if that's even feasible.
it's,
I don't know.
So it's a great idea. Unfortunately.
You know, people want to be coming through all this crap.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Unfortunately, the high school and middle school are unable to be utilized due to construction. So there's they've cut the alarm system, so we're not authorized really to be in that space. We actually have a board meeting for one of our booster organizations meeting in our conference room right now just because of that. So I would suggest that we will get out information about the parking situation, you know, so people will know to make sure that they have four-wheel drive before coming to that meeting. But realistically, though, we'll let people know.
I'm just, I don't want to limit people's access because our new
Sure.
ADA and the Open Meetings Act,
Yeah.
we're supposed to allow people easy access to our building. And I don't know if we're accomplishing that. That's why I don't know if we have a meeting that soon. Somebody's going to say, well, I wasn't even able to come to the meeting because, and that's a legitimate concern. Not that anybody would say that, but just trying to cover our bases.
Yeah. And we did have a conversation with the construction manager. They're going to start curbing. So I believe in 2 weeks, there might be some significantly more packed gravel there.
Okay.
So, you know, it's not going to be paved, but I believe.
No, that's great.
A little
Just-
bit easier to.
I don't want to limit the public to where we're having them, come to the admin building, but, by the way, you can't get there. There's, 3,000 yards of dirt in different areas that.
I will volunteer to drive it, but can we have the golf cart shuttle if anybody needs it to get
I
there?
was thinking a shuttle from the north side of the middle school where the parking lot is.
Or even just the maintenance. I mean, I just parked in the maintenance.
Garage here
Yep.
would be fine.
We can set that up.
We're just trying to cover.
I want to drive.
Good points. Everybody's got good ideas.
And so we'll get you that information, and I'm going to put a target of July 25th. So July 25th will be when we compile the results and send those to you, so you have a couple days to review that data before the meeting. I'll work with RC on the shuttle. Also, then I would just recommend, and I just asked the president, Mr. Main, if she'd be comfortable with this, being that, you know, she's been through this process, as Mr. Sapanik has, multiple times. I think she feels comfortable running the interview, but she also wants to make sure that the whole board gets to ask questions and that they're participating. So my recommendation is going to be to send Carrie 2 to 3 questions that you really want asked, if you have those, and then she will compile those. Those need to be kept confidential, of course, because we don't want, you know, the questions out there. So Those questions will be compiled confidentially, and then she would share back with you as board members. This would be the final 21, 22, whatever number of questions that you had. And that would also give her time, if she wanted to add any of the questions submitted through the survey, to be able to be included. Does that work for you? So you all are aware that your responsibility is to let her know the 2 or 3 questions you would like asked.
By the 25th of July, before that.
Preferably before, but I would say the 25th at the latest, because she's going to have a short turnaround time.
Yeah, I would say by at the latest, the Friday before, but I guess this is just discussion option, but to my fellow board members, if we can attempt to be here no later than 15 minutes before, just to confirm who's asking what, and just procedurally before we do, the actual interview process, if that's possible. If you're not able to, maybe we need to make some adjustment to timing, but I just think that would be professional and best to make sure that we're prepared.
I'll try, but no promises. Maybe I just won't wear the tie. How about that? I'll come in my mud-covered boots. How's that sound?
Totally fine.
All right.
Well, we're all going to come in mud-covered boots. Unless you take the shuttle that I'm going to drive.
Okay. Anything else on logistics?
I think we're all set. So moving forward, we've got the approval of SCEA employment.
Yes, we, as you know, have been looking for quite some time to find a counselor for our high school students, and it has been well worth the wait. And so I'm excited tonight to provide you with a candidate who I think is going to be excellent. Mr. Heatherton is actually going to introduce the candidate, and she will be here for your consideration.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Ms. Marianne Nass to come on up to the podium. And she comes to us from Emily City, where she has been a school counselor since 2018-ish, 19?
Yes.
19. Before that, she was a counselor with Carmen Ainsworth Community Schools. She has a master's in counseling from Oakland University and is a licensed counselor in the state of Michigan. The committee, I think, the most impressed by just her demeanor, her attitude, super warm, super engaging, has great experiences with some of the things that we're working on, SEL, trauma, ACEs, all those things that we talk about, she talked about in her interview. And so based on her wealth of experiences, her experiences in the things that fit with our model, and just the way she presented herself, we're pretty excited to bring her before you for recommendation for hire for a counselor at Swartz Creek High School, and I'll have her give a little bit about herself to you.
I am also very excited to come on board. I feel like this was serendipitous, that I hadn't, I don't know if not everybody knows that I had not reached out to Swartz Creek. I had not looked at a posting, but you have a counselor that reached out to me. And so kids are where my heart is. I've always worked with challenges. I was born to do this, I believe. It still excites me. And I can tell you tonight, even sitting here and listening to the board talk, I've listened to lots of boards talk. It's very inspiring to see how you work. And that was evident in my first conversations about the position. So I'm looking forward to finding my spot. I hear I have a new office. And I just, will look to all of you and the people that I work with to guide me through the way. It's never easy, but I believe in listening before I speak. So help me out.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Approval of SCEA employment. Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves the SCEA employment of Mary Ann Noss, counselor at Swartz Creek High School, as presented. Sue, would you do a roll call, please?
Chuck Melkey,
Yes.
Brian Sapanik,
Yes.
Alyssa Parks,
Yes.
Alicia Gardner,
Yes.
Jack Sayer,
Yes.
Jessica Lenate.
Yes.
6 yes.
Motion approved. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, good luck.
Welcome to Swartz Creek.
I'm very excited, if you can't tell.
Okay, we got the budget application of the ESSER fund. Ben, did you want to say any more about it?
Nope.
Nope, so moved?
So moved?
Support?
We got Alicia and Alyssa. Any questions? Sue, would you do a roll call on this one, please?
Sure will. Brian Sapanic?
Yes.
Alicia Gardner?
Yes.
Jack Sayer?
Yes.
Alyssa Parks?
Yes.
Chuck Melkey?
Yes.
Jessica Lenee?
Yes.
6 yes.
Thank you. Motion approved. Public comments. Cora, do you have a public comment?
Yes, please.
All right, my name's Cora Alexander. I live at 2450 Anna Clara Court. I'm a recent graduate of Swartz Creek High School, and as Mr. Mike has said, I am interested in doing a send-off documentary of the Mary Crapo building. It would be over the history and the memories of the building, and it would be used to try and generate some closure over the demolition. I wouldn't make a stand over whether we should keep it or whatever we should do. It would be used to make it easier for everyone, whether they're against it, just to, make them feel a little bit better about it. And by that, making people who are for demolishing it, just make it easier overall. I'm also a former ITC member, so I'm familiar with the school equipment, and I would hope I'd be allowed to maybe use the school equipment. It's sitting there for the summer, and I do have stuff I could use, but it's not that great. It'd be better if I could use that stuff, if I'd be allowed. I'd hope to release it in November, about 20 minutes. And I am working on setting up a tour with RC Hunt. Yeah, so that's all I have so far. If anyone has any questions, they can let me know.
Brian? Yes. Have you reached out to the Swartz Creek Historical Society?
That was another one I was told to reach out
you
to.
really need to
Yeah.
get a hold of them. They're very in tune on what's going on. They are very on hands what's going on. RC will help you immensely. But yeah, you need to get a perspective from the Historical Society, community, clubs, schools. And when you do this, what we'll call a mini documentary, are you going to, who's going to end up with the copy besides the school and yourself maybe? I mean, have you decided how it's going to be distributed and where the permanent archive's going to be of something like that?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe I'd just put it out on YouTube, and then anyone can put the link anywhere it makes sense. It's just really meant for anybody in the community interested in seeing it to be able to see it and to be
Right.
aware of it.
You'll walk through the building and take, obviously, video shots of the good parts that are left and the bad parts and
Yeah,
and everything in between.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I'm going to interview anyone I can find who has a good story of the building.
good.
Can I ask, go ahead, Alicia.
Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
So process-wise, I guess I just want to, I put on my liability hat. And I just want to be cautious and make sure, I mean, I think, first of all, thank you. Let me start off with that. This opportunity is great for us. My understanding is that you want to do this professionally, but there's no fees associated, like, we're not paying you to do this, correct? So it's an opportunity you can use for your own portfolio, and a benefit, obviously, to the district and the public. I would just ask, in protection of the district, that we get to see that and proof that, and just make sure that there's, and I don't necessarily mean we as in the board. I mean, we can if that's wanted, but at least somebody, if nothing more than our attorneys or whatever, that gets viewed before that gets made public.
Yeah, and we can work with Cora. She's worked with us for a while, so the good thing is she knows kind of how we operate, and she knows the equipment. I believe Mr. Gillette would be totally on board with helping oversee, letting her use some of our equipment.
Yep.
But the other piece of this would be, Mr. Heatherton, in my opinion, should definitely see the copy before it goes live.
Absolutely.
I think that's a great idea. And also, she would be accompanied by, our operations team while she's in the building. So
Correct.
that would be another
Yeah,
liability.
my only thought was, when you said YouTube, I'm like, please don't put that out before it's been vetted.
That's a great point. I didn't
Yeah.
think about that, Alicia, because it could be, not that anything's going to happen, but it could be construed and somebody needs to, using our equipment,
Correct.
our property, the public's property, it
Yep.
has to be very non-biased and kind of down the middle. And like Cora already kind of said,
Right.
that's the way she was going to do it.
And then I wanted to.
It's trust, but we're going to verify it, Cora. Did you hear that saying before? So that's all
Yeah.
that means. And Alicia brings up a good point.
Yeah, and then I agree with Mr. Melky as well. I think, and if there's the ability that we can, I don't know, like sign over the rights or anything like that to the Historical Society. I mean, I think YouTube is a great thing, but say they crash and burn at some point. I mean, we have no way of knowing. And maybe that's something that you can negotiate with them. But they would be a good archiver of that type of information. I think it's even more imperative to them and the community than it really is even to the district. So I second that would be another good coordinated effort to make.
So it seems like we're all on board here pretty much, and I think Cora, having been an ITC student as well, and having seen your work, I look forward to the documentary. I think you're going to do a wonderful job.
Thank you.
You always did back when you were in Gillette's class, and I have no expectation that it'll be any lower quality work than you did in there, and it was always great in there. So I'm looking forward to the documentary. I hope that we'll provide you whatever you need, and I'm sure that Mr. Gillette will be more than happy to do that. So good luck to you. Prove me right and do great work, and make a good documentary for us. How about that?
Yep, thank you. Thank you very much.
I have a couple things, just really quick, because when we were talking about it, and you nodded, but verbally, are you verbally okay with us having, not us as the board, but the administration having viewing and, I don't know if I want to say editing options or
Yeah.
but yeah, not that we need it, but I.
You can tell me to change it however you need me to.
You know what? I think
Don't give that much away.
Well, yeah.
If you're going into this, no. Yeah. Say that
I
again?
think we need something signed because she's not an employee of the district.
Correct.
We're letting her on district property, so we need something just.
Contract?
District legally.
Volunteer
Kind of
contract.
Yep.
I can speak into it a little bit. So I'll give you, I just give you an example. I personally, I'm a very cautious person when it comes to liability. This is one where I'm pretty comfortable. So I'll give you an example. We have community partners, and Swartz Creek Area Fire Department is a community partner, right? And the fire chief reached out and said, and we know Mary Crapo is being demolished. Would we have any opportunity to go in there and train? And so, of course, according to our process, it's, please make sure you furnish your, liability because you're doing some things there. But most importantly, we were going to have one of our operations team members present. So one of our guys was there. They took some time to do ladder climbs. They had the big heavy dummy that they were pulling out of windows. They were actually using the building. And they were just elated. They said, thank you so much. It was this great opportunity. We have had the Swartz Creek Area Historical Society go in there again, accompanied by our people. So I think as long as she's not in there by herself, we're covered under the guise of liability from the standpoint that we have one of our people there. I'm concerned about Mary Crapo in general because of the liability of the insurance piece, but that's whether, somebody's in there or not. But I think it's a great point that you make, and having one of our people with her at all times, I think covers that, because then she's kind of a de facto guest, no different than some of our other community partners.
Yes, I think to Jessica's point, though, is, so once she leaves that building, though, the actual footage piece, that we want to make sure that gets approved, and
For
we've
sure.
got some kind of.
And I think she's
You're willing.
agreeing to that.
Yeah, I know, I see you nodded, I just, Because we have microphones, would like for you to verbally say, yes, you don't have an issue with that in part, right? And then secondly, would you be willing to, depending on what you do, but what was it you said, that we technically become a permanent archive?
We should have a
for
permanent
the-
archive because it's school property, along with. if
Does
the
that make
historical
sense?
site.
Yeah.
That would-
Yeah,
I'm
that'd
sure
be
Mr.
fine.
Gillette will probably do something to get it, right, Ben?
Yep. Yeah, he'll get a hard file. So
Yeah,
that it's not just
I
a
want to
web
make
drive.
sure it just doesn't, like Alicia said, crash and burn and, oh, we thought this person had it, that person had it. Really, we are the caretaker of the records for the district, and one copy needs to come here, and we need to preserve it because it's our property, our district, our,
Sure.
okay.
Doesn't mean you don't get to keep a copy of it.
Oh, yeah, I just want to make it.
Yeah,
You guys
yeah.
can do whatever you want to do with it after
With
that.
So much.
And with digital
you.
technology, it's not necessarily like it used to be. So like if the Historical Society has a website, then I imagine there's a link, but there's not going to be anyway, I don't want to get into the details. It's just, the intent is there. It's just not the way it used to be. There isn't going to be like a tape.
You mean we're not gonna get the VHS of it?
It's going to be in the cloud and it'll be saved there.
Put it on a floppy disk. How's that sound?
I'm glad that you're doing this because somebody should have did it before, and that way we'll have, because this is going to be memories for a lifetime for people, where somebody's going to say, oh, I forgot how the school was set up, or the classrooms, or whatever, and I think that's huge for most of us on this board.
And I just want to say thank you, if I can hop on the end of that, and just your desire to help the entire community to be able to heal and celebrate and memorialize Mary Crapo is phenomenal. So thank you so much, Cora.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cora. Any other comments from the public? Ashley? You're all fine?
Okay.
What about from the board?
I have a
Comments?
couple.
Good.
I'm sorry I jumped in there. I was concerned, about the alarm system and stuff, and we've had some trespassers recently. I don't know if the other board members know about this onto our property where the construction's going. And I think RC, this is from a building standpoint, a quasi-report, that hopefully RC is putting up some signs to tell people not to be on our property. I guess we've found some kids in there the other night.
Yep.
And, Carmen Ainsworth just burned down in several places, and there were several fires, and they can say it was accidental, but I'm sure, I don't know. I don't know, and we have too much invested in this district, and money and time and effort by you, board members, all of our teachers, all of our personnel, for somebody to be doing something silly, so we have to be more aware of what's going on, and I don't know what the fix is, but,
Yep.
hopefully you and Rod are taking care of that this week.
Yeah, Rod and I talked with RC today. We actually ordered yesterday. We have no trespassing signs and violators will be prosecuted. We have the police are going to be doing regular runs through there.
Good.
And it's definitely something that, we need to be on top of. Construction sites are more difficult to secure than, obviously a hard building envelope. So we have those signs posted, and we are going to be working with the police to make sure those things happen regularly. But it's going to be definitely on Rod's radar, I know, to make sure that those are constantly checked because it is a concern. There's a lot of liability there, and we intend to prosecute anybody that sets foot in the building without authorization.
Okay, and then my second thing is congratulations, Ben, on your new job. We've had our differences, and met plenty of them, but the good outweighs the bad. That's my way of complimenting you. And you've done a great job for our children, for our staff, for the district, but more so with all this mess we have going on in construction, because I know you stayed on top of it. And it was before my time, but I came in right at the beginning, and I know you guys had a hard job. You stayed on top of it. I do appreciate that immensely, because it benefits this district, it benefits our kids, it benefits the students, the teachers, staff, us, everyone here. It makes the district more desirable to come to. So I think in that, you've done a great job, and at the end of the day, you want to leave a place that was better than when you came. And I think you've done that, you've accomplished that. I'm not going to do any kiss button, but, I said we've had a lot of differences, me and you, and you've brought us together as a board. I think that's great. and you have kept this construction project under, along with your normal school duties. So thank you for your job, your dedication to this district for 6 years. And I know most superintendents don't stay more than 2 or 3, is from my understanding. So thank you very much, and I'm sure the rest of the board is going to echo what I just said. And I'm sorry Carrie's not here because she's probably your biggest trumpet blower. But Brian will take over for her, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
I would echo that. When I came in, I mean, I was your student before, so coming in, I had a bit of a different perspective, but you've mentored me and you've given me opportunities that I otherwise would not have had. Every time I asked you for something, more information or whatever, you would get it to me not just in abundance, but swiftly as well. And you've worked hard to build that relationship that we can rely on you and know that whatever we need, you'll get it for us, but whatever the district needs, you'll get it for us. So I know that Novi is going to be in great hands. I look forward to seeing you succeed out there. Hopefully we see you keep coming back and checking in on us every once in a while, but sad to see you go, but happy to see you succeed.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Go ahead, Jessica, or Alyssa.
Can I go next? So before I add to that, I just wanted to let everyone know, if you didn't know, that we had 2 Europe trips from our district in June. Not only the one that I was on to France, Switzerland, and Germany, but also the Spanish club went to Barcelona, although they had some flight delays, I understand, and got there about 3 days late. But so it was a great trip, and our staff are to be congratulated and thanked for all the work that they did before, during, on the trip, especially the leads. So potentially may want a future presentation to that effect, because that's a really cool thing that our school district is able to do. So I don't need to reiterate what everyone else has said, because you already know how I feel. So Ben, you've just been an amazing leader. You continue to be an amazing leader. And I think what I've noticed is that it's, you've been a model for others. And so I think that's just so important, not only, I guess, talking the talk or behind the scenes, but out front, so that not only what you're doing directly, but your impact has ripples and people see it across this district. And we've all seen as well. We see what great leadership looks like. So that helps us for the future. And your successor is going to have big shoes to fill, but I'm sure they'll be up to the task. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Jessica?
I spoke on Ben. I have other comments. So if you want to continue Ben's first, go for it.
Love fest.
Jessica? Did you?
The strange thing is, I'm not even quite exactly certain what to say. In that, when I first met you, it was because I asked you to come and speak at a business group. And you talked about what was happening in the district and its weaknesses. That was part of the title. And it has never ceased to impress me. And impress isn't even the right word. I'm so thankful for the level of integrity and honesty and concern for this district. And when I say that, for the students, for the staff, for us, for your, I can only imagine how hard it's been to juggle everything, and I really want to say thank you to your family as well, because I'm certain that it can't be easy, or it hasn't, but I'm certainly hope that it's been rewarding. And for them as well, I know it has for you, with your involvement, like doing the podcast, being able to have fun and being able to be serious and still be able to laugh at yourself. We all know those are great qualities. It is really wonderful to be able to see that ripple out. And quite honestly, not just in our district, but with your other involvements as well. They're right, Novi is really lucky to have you, and it has been a blessing to have you in this district. And And I very much appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
My turn? Oh, Rod.
I just want to say some things for Ben too.
Okay.
I also, I know not board comment, but appreciate Ben's leadership. It's been a big 5.5 years, and we've spent a lot of time dreaming about things that can be accomplished here in Swartz Creek. We've spent a lot of time just talking about our own personal goals and aspiration and what it means to be a leader in public education. And yes, Alicia, I've had a lot of experiences in Creek and outside of Creek, but it was Ben's partnership with me that has really impacted my ability and desire to want to be a superintendent. I had a lot of things coming in, but that piece is on Ben, and so I just want to thank him for that mentorship, because that is probably the piece that has really rounded out what I want to talk to you guys about in 2 weeks. So I wish you all the best of luck in Novi, and to the board, just thank you for this opportunity. Swartz Creek's my home. I've been here for most of my 48 years, and I am very, very excited about spending a couple of hours with you in 2 weeks to talk to you about that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rod. Okay, now me? Thank you, Rod. And congratulations. I want to add that. I wanted to, so I toted you already earlier, and I do that personally as well. But I do want to add a thank you for truly putting Swartz Creek on the map. I think it's a fantastic district, but I mean, truly even on the national map. I do think we need to give you some credit for that as well. So when I say, you've got a legacy, it's that it's not the Ben Meinke legacy, it's the Swartz Creek Community School District's legacy, that you have put us out there, that anybody that sits in that seat and speaks on behalf of our district, we are respected and we are heard and we are understood, and it's that culture that you're leaving behind. And I will second that I know that that is the culture and the beliefs of Rod Heatherton. So I'm very excited for what you have left, and nothing but happy for you in the future. Sad, but I'm happy for you. But what I wanted to actually comment on, though, is that although this is a love fest for Ben Meinke as you leave, and congratulations to Mr. Heatherton, there are some other exceptional staff that unfortunately we are losing, that we approved earlier, and I would just like to give a little bit of a recognition to them as well. The one that actually, I kind of went, oh, really? I didn't even know, I'll be honest. I read it today and went, oh man, Mary's leaving, ouch. But there is a list of people on here. So Ms. Penny Adams will be a loss to our district. Mrs. Cumming, Shannon Cumming, I guess, specify that. There's a couple Cummingses and stuff throughout the district, but Miss Mary Penrod is our lead in the transportation department, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are crying that she's leaving. She is truly a backbone, and that is a huge loss for our district. But I want to wish her the best in her retirement, thank her for her diligence and her dedication to this district, and those will be big shoes to fill too. And then, not lastly, because Ben is on here too, so thank you, but last in my other recognitions would be Mr. Derek Bouchon, that we have announced previously, but officially our Executive Director of Student Services leaving too. So we wish him the best, personally and professionally, but he and I can attest to some benefits as a mom even in putting that team together, but his direction has been fantastic. Those will be his huge shoes to fill as well, but I just wanted to comment to all of those people. We do retain fantastic staff. It's sad to see some of our fantastic staff leave as well, but they all have their own little legacy that they're leaving behind, as well as Mr. Meinke.
Thank you. I guess I'm last. Ben, like I said before, and you know my feelings on this, it's been incredible working with you. And I've worked with many, many superintendents, and And I love the succession plan you put together. I like how this all unfolded. You know, we got you through a superintendent search. I remember at the middle school, you know, you and your wife were there. And you know, we were asking you the same questions that we'll probably be asking, or close to it, that we'll be asking Rod in a couple of weeks. But, you know, it's just been a joy, just an absolute joy to come to these board meetings with you here. And I'm going to miss that. And I'm sure Rod's going to take care of the slack. He's going to do a great job. So, you know, but you'll still be within reach. You're within reach. We got your phone number.
That's
We
right.
got to get a hold of you. And I still think you'll still be a close friend, I think, to all of us. But I truly appreciate that. And we did. We lost a lot of great people this past month to retirements and different promotions and different jobs. And but we'll survive. And Rod's going to carry us through. Congratulations, Rod. I think this is impressive what's going on here. And I'm glad to be part of the Swartz Creek school systems. But with that, do I have, Ben, do you have anything more to say? Or are you?
I don't. I'm humbled and honored and so appreciative, and we are going to stay in touch, and I'm only a phone call away.
Take care of my John Deere tractor. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 7:50.
Yes. Let's go.